memories embroidered on your soul. So please forgive me for putting you in my song. But the spirit, she moves me. In fact, she pushes me along. It's a patchwork quilt of life. Can't stop the river, just let it roll. We were at Jones Beach when we got the word. Saddest sound that I've ever heard. Bluest notes that nobody could play. Raven sang with us that night on the stage. Tears of sadness, tears of rage. But nobody spoke, we all felt old in the way. So walk beside me, or above me, I don't know. These days it sure seems I'm lost wherever I go. God, how could you? I heard somebody say, what do we do with our lives now anyway? Now that our North Star can no longer be found, but there's a banjo moon in a tie-dyed sky. Hippies dance and babies cry. The church bells ring, a silver-haired angel looks down, and the blood of this music runs through the veins of our guitars. Bright lights, dark star. I never knew you then, who really did. If you were at all like me, you managed to keep yourself here.
Well, you remember when you was a kid and you would play spin the bottle, and I was always a little wild girl that you looked at and with that hungry eyes.
Midnight fire, engineer, won't you let your whistle moan? Midnight fire, I paid my dues and I feel like crowded on. A runaway team of my horses ain't enough to make me stay. So throw your rope on another man and put him down your way. Make him into someone to take the place of me. Make him every kind of fool you wanted me to be. Midnight fire, engineer, won't you let your whistle moan? Midnight fire, I pay my dues and I feel like traveling on. Maybe I'll stop in Santa Fe, maybe in San Antonio. Any town is where I'm bound, anyway I go is gone. Don't ever think about me, never let me cross your mind, excepting when you hear that midnight lonesome whistle whine. Ooh, midnight fire. Engineer, won't you let your whistle moan? Ooh, midnight fire. I paid my dues and I feel like traveling on, traveling on.
Where'd the old town go? They moved it on north of here in the shopping mall. Ooh, where'd the old town go? Did my hometown get old, or just me? Did all my friends get old, or just me? Are they all gonna have to be told, or just me?
It is Saturday morning. It's Old Town Cleveland time. If the voice you hear on the air is not the one you expected, surprise! This is Doug Mizell sitting in the air chair today for Ron Moore. He is out doing other things. Isn't he, Deb?
He is. I'm so glad to have Doug here with me this morning, but I'll tell you folks, Murphy's Law has been in effect this morning. Doug walks in the building and the whole system goes off.
Gremlins followed me, did it not?
It did, but I think we're on the air
Ron
now.
wouldn't sabotage it, would he?
Yeah.
I suspect that maybe Ron.
What
Ron
is
said.
the funniest thing when something like that happens is Doug and I are chatting, and all of a sudden we just looked at each other and freeze. We realized that we weren't hearing the music anymore, and it just happens. And people online are saying we are broadcasting well, and we have our good friend Eddie Cartwright here with us this morning, and we want you to call in with your memories this morning of things that you remember. Do you remember?
Should be a great show, and
We're talking about businesses and buildings and places and people that you remember that are now gone, and we would love for you to call in and talk about your memories. And Eddie's going to try to answer some of your questions, or he may have some questions he wants to ask our audience, our very knowledgeable audience.
Right.
And we love the phone calls. You can call us at 614-5553. And so, Doug, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. We got a call already this morning. Let's see who it might be. Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
Good morning.
Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
Good morning, Doug, and
Bullets, you
there.
were making me sweat bullets. I thought the phone wasn't working now.
What's going on, buddy?
Well, I think that phone's been acting up. I don't know what happened to Doc Hollywood last night. He actually come on, and he stayed on for about a minute and went off and never did come back on. I don't know what happened to him. I was kind of getting worried about him.
Well, when we called in this morning, we called for technical help this morning. We were told that
I can't hear Deb.
You can't hear me?
Can't hear Deb?
No.
Let's cut the mics all the way up and see. Can you?
I can hear Doug.
Are you better?
Can you hear me now?
I can just barely hear her.
Let's try that. Can you hear now?
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
All
sound
right,
check,
all
sound
right.
check.
We're on air now. Okay.
Talk about my memories of Cleveland. When I was growing up here, I was born and raised here, and I was born in Specs Hospital, which is no longer there. And I lived over around Wildwood when I was a kid growing up, and there used to be a store called Williams Grocery. And I remember we used to get a Coke for 5 cents. And back then, $1 would last you a whole week, I guess.
Hey, Bullet, where was the Williams store?
Okay, it was. It's right there next to where that there, right across from where Gary Godfrey and them used to live on top of the hill there. But it was right there. There's a barbershop. It was called My Barbershop. It's right up from it, right across the street. It's right there where there's a. I think vacuum. Well, there's a car cleaning place.
Okay, it may be was it where Stoney's Grocery was later?
Yeah, I believe that's where it was.
Okay. I think Mr. Arla Stonecipher has now left us, but I think one of the funniest stories that was ever told on Old Town Cleveland, he said as a Thanksgiving promotional, they would block the traffic there on Wildwood Avenue, and they would release wild turkeys from the top of that grocery store
Yeah.
for Thanksgiving promotion, and people would line up to catch that wild turkey for Thanksgiving
Kind of
dinner.
reminds me of a WKRP.
Oh, the humanity. Doug, they're saying you're loud.
Okay, I'll pull that down.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, listeners. We'll get all these audios.
Anything else, Bullet?
No, I just want to call in and say hello to you and Doug. And like I say, I've got some fond memories. I can't thank them all right now, but I've got a lot. I just want to thank that right there kind of struck to me. We got getting a Coke for 5 cents, and anyway, I'll just let somebody else call.
Thank you, Bullet.
Good talk.
Bye-bye.
Bullet brought up Speck Hospital. There's one building that is no longer here. That is now a parking lot off the square, not off the square, off the Inman Street. And
Right, that's Bank of Cleveland's parking lot.
yeah, exactly. There we go. Bank of Cleveland parking lot. I think Debbie and I were talking just prior to the show. Speck Hospital only had about 19 rooms. Is that right?
I don't know. I was never in Speck Hospital that I can remember. P&S Hospital, now down toward 5 Points, was in a big 2-story house, and physicians and surgeons, I guess is what that stood for. But I remember as a kid getting in a mud ball fight in Candice Creek area. No, I take that back. I was in, I was in the lake and throwing mud balls with boys and got hit in the ear and had a fractured eardrum and went to P&S Hospital. Dr. Ferguson treated me. That was a long time ago. Tell you what, I've had some questions about this week. The
I think
5
somebody's
point.
calling, Ed.
All right.
Hang on just a second.
Let's see who's calling. Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland, Miss Doug. Who's calling?
Good morning, guys. Doug Hollywood coming at you here.
Hey, Doc Hollywood.
How you doing, Doc?
Hey, guys, tell Bullet there he can rest. I was not abducted by aliens there. Same thing happened to me, guys. I was running the show, and all of a sudden, zap, nothing. I thought it was static electricity, about 10-foot hairstyle here, but I don't know. So it happened to y'all, too, huh?
Oh, yeah, we walked in. I'm glad we came in early this morning because we resolved all the problem prior to the showtime, but my goodness, we had multiple things go wrong here at the studio.
Don't know what's the deal, but this Eddie Cartwright, is this of the old slide fame up on the hill there, the Whitewater slide back in the day?
You got it. It was behind the chalet. We had, that was probably in the 70s we put that water slide in. And it was the first one in Cleveland. Then there was another one put in by Mr. White, and it was across the interstate about where, there's some motels there now and next to Rolling Hills Golf Course.
I remember that. Yeah, you guys were in business at the same time.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Were you in business at the same time?
Yes, we opened up and was probably in business for a year, and I think everybody thought we were getting rich, and so they put in one. We both went out of business.
Somewhere in my souvenir shoebox, I've got a free pass that your water slide there. I can't remember what the case was, if it was a rain date or what. I've still got that.
Well, Doc, you're welcome to take your cardboard box out the next time that it snows and slide down that hill.
That's right.
Yeah, later on that thing was, that business there, Eddie, was like a bar or something, wasn't it, later on?
Charlie Snyder rented the dressing rooms we had up there in the office. He rented that little building after the water slide went out of business and had Good Time Charlie's in there for a while.
That's right. I forgot to say that. We put that thing a time or two. Well, very, very good there. Got good memories back in the day going down that slide. I think was it Gala? Was it yellow?
It was yellow. You're right.
Yep. All right, guys. I'll let somebody else squeeze a memory in here.
Thanks, Doc.
Good talking.
Bye-bye. I think the big problem with the water slide was that after you slid, you had to walk back up that hillside.
You're right. You're right.
That's enough to discourage you after about the second or third time. Somebody here said that they had an advertisement for Speck Hospital, and it says Speck Hospital, while the second floor is to contain beds for patients, 15 beds is being planned for that floor. So I had read somewhere it was a 16-bed hospital, but I don't know if that was before they added this 15 beds or what.
Man, got another call. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town. Who's calling?
Hello, Dad.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Ella?
I feel good this morning.
Well, great. I'm glad to hear that.
Hey, I can remember when my twin sister, I never could roller skate. You know, I couldn't even stand up on it. She used to take me out in the middle of the floor and let me come back by myself. I'd be crawling back.
So you didn't roller skate, you roller crawled. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Skill that comes in handy.
And she would go out, leave me there, and go somewhere with her boyfriend and come back.
Where was the roller skate ring back then, Miss Ella?
I guess, were you in Roane County then, Miss Ella?
Yes, there was, the building's still there. It's a big brick building, I forget on what street it's on, but I think it's behind one of the theaters somewhere back in there.
All right. Well,
yeah, but I think that was funny. And I had a good time, you know, with my family growing up. My mama, you know, never went to the hospital with none of us but one, the last one. So we was all born at home in every gap.
well, that's a great memory.
Thanks, Miss Ella. The weather's going to be nicer this week, so you're going to be able to get out and ride the bus some this week.
I hope so.
Yeah, well,
I'm tired of this winter weather.
I wanted to go to Pokey's race, and I was so bad because it was Valentine's, but I didn't get to go.
Oh,
hear
okay.
Well, thanks for calling.
Bye, Miss Ella. What were we talking about?
Good time, Charlie's.
Yeah. But this week, after I was invited to come down here, I had some people talk to me about
5 points. Yeah.
Said, let's talk about 5 Points some more. And my first recollection of 5 Points, my father and Milford Miller worked at a Shell service station at 3 Point. And I was a little kid, but I could walk from 3 Points to 5 Points. And Mr. Waylon Wattenbarger had a barber shop down there, a little long white building. It's no longer there. And I could get a haircut. And I can remember Cap Giles, who was the city policeman, and his beat was 5 Point. And he was a kind, older gentleman at the time that I remember him. And then later on, Bill Ledford and I opened up Cleveland Men's Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Dan Lay owned the property, and we rented from him. And I remember one day, heard a noise, and I looked out the front window of my store, and a truck was hung under the underpass.
Oh.
Imagine that.
And there was Irish potatoes going everywhere.
Oh, my goodness.
That truck was loaded with Irish potatoes, and they were loose. They were not in boxes or.
And they became mashed potatoes, didn't they?
Well, they became somebody else's potatoes because people came from under the underpass and in every direction with bags and boxes. And I remember one older lady, and back in the day, this would have been about 59. She still had an apron on, and she was holding up the corners of that apron, and it was full of potatoes.
There you go.
And she was heading home. She probably had 10 pounds of potatoes
Free
or more
potatoes.
than that. But then chickens, they had a truck get hung up. Excuse me. And chickens were running all over. They were on top of Ben Moore's drugstore and all around.
And when people still hit that. We're going to get this call.
Got a caller calling in. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town. Who's calling?
How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing great. How about you, Brett?
Good.
Good. Good talking to you,
Brett,
buddy.
I saw you. You went in and did the weather on one of the TV shows, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, I saw you with, was that with David Carroll?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I just saw you on the internet.
He came in to do opening school thing, candy store.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Doug.
Uh-huh.
I was letting everybody know there's a tournament today at East Hamilton High.
All right. What kind of tournament?
It's a basketball tournament.
Basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Is it ongoing today? What time does it start, Brett?
No, it played last night. All the teams moved on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Can I tell you who moved on?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm starting with the girls, Doug.
Okay.
Walker Valley is playing McMinn County
Mm-hmm.
at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Cleveland girls are playing Bradley at 4:30. That's two games that is playing today.
That'll be a great game.
Oodawall is playing Cleveland at 6. Walker Valley Boys is playing at 7:30.
Okay. Sounds like a great tourney. A lot of good teams there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's at East Hamilton High School.
Okay.
Yeah. I want everybody to go down and see all these two teams play in this tournament today.
All right, buddy.
Well, are we pulling for Bradley?
Yes.
I thought you were.
Well, thanks for calling in, Brett, with that report. Appreciate it.
Who's in the studio, Doug?
All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Mr. Brett Whitehead calling in with Sports Report. We always appreciate him doing that.
When I said David Carroll's name a few minutes ago, it reminds me that not next Saturday, but March the 1st, he's going to be our guest here on Old Town
Great.
Cleveland. And the last time he was in, he really was fascinating. And I think that he's wanting to tell us about the fact that they have now found some old shows, and they're posting. I don't know if they've posted it yet, but they're going to put them on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And he's wanting to talk to us about that process, I think.
Did you hear about the resurgence of Dr. Shock coming back on TV?
I heard it's hard to redo classic things,
Yeah,
isn't
isn't it, though? Isn't it, though?
Maybe he'll be telling us about that, too, but I thought that was kind of fun. Let's go back to the wild chickens running downtown.
Yeah.
I do remember, too, a time that there was a potato truck probably in the early 80s hit that underpass, and I believe the folks from the jail came, brought the trustees, gathered
think
up the
you're right.
potatoes, and they cooked them for months, I guess, or weeks or something.
I
But,
saw a sign on the internet where somebody had essentially the same problem as we do with that underpass.
Everybody has problems.
And
too.
they hung a great big sign across the street there and says, if you hit this sign, you're going to hit the bridge. Why don't we do that? You know,
Yeah,
that
we
sounds...
gotta be-
Sometimes things make too much sense for us to do them.
Well, on the internet too, you can find they have a camera on a bridge like that, and there's big flashing lights on it and everything, and it's just truck after truck and wrecker after wrecker and RV after RV that crash into it. I was behind a guy one day when he took that little air conditioning unit right off the top of his big RV. As I came to a screeching halt and just sat there and cringed, and he, and I thought, uh-oh. Too low for you, buddy. But I think over the years too, we've built up the ground there under the underpass.
Yeah, but we've also taken it back down, and
we?
it's as low now as it can go,
okay.
and water run out of there. It's hard to make water run uphill. You got to pump it.
Now, I don't know, Eddie, maybe you can help me with this. And I know you weren't around when that underpass was put in, but early,
Not long after.
I think probably in the 19-teens, they put the underpass in there. And I don't know if it was a built-up place like a trestle bridge or what there, because it had to be up that high originally, didn't it?
I guess so.
Yeah, but when you think about it, the train was already up there, and somebody just thought, well, let's take this part of the hill out and drive under it, which was really a smart thing to do, I'm sure, for downtown. But that's just, and so that would mean probably part of 64 Highway there was not even there.
Well, I began to think after I found out I was going to be on here today, what all was going on at 5 Point when we opened our store.
Yeah,
It was bustling
What
at the
year
time,
was
wasn't it?
that?
That would have been the last of 59, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But, it was a really thriving area. you could park on both sides of the street. It was 2-lane road, and starting up about where the pool room is now, Cleveland Pool Center or whatever they call it.
Billiards club.
Right. Well, Mr. Norman Vaughn, who had been in the grocery business for a good long while in Cleveland, came down there in a new grocery store, and it was really the grocery store in Bradley County then.
Now, who ran it?
Yes, he ran it.
Who was it?
Norman Vaughn. His wife was Jane Vaughn, and Miltine and I are close friends with their daughter, Martha McDowell. She's married to Charlie McDowell, and as a matter of fact, we're going to the big band sound tonight at the Tivoli Theater in Chattanooga.
Wow!
Yeah, that's I look forward to it. But anyway, coming down that street, there was, in my first recollection, a Mrs. Finkelstein owned a little jot 'em down store in there about where the Catch Restaurant is. I'm not sure which store
never
building.
Heard that one.
Well, she sold everything, combat boots. She sold about everything, and she was a little Jewish lady, and her husband, Mr. Finkelstein, had a little jot 'em down store at 3 Point, and he was murdered in the back of that little store. He lived in the back of that little store. I don't know whether Mr. and Miss Finkelstein didn't get along or what that story
or
was.
they got along better if they didn't live
If
together.
they didn't live together, evidently. But anyway, he was a nice guy, and as I said before, my dad worked there at 3 Point, and somebody, the way I remember the story, was maybe a hobo got off the train right there behind the store and came down there and robbed the old man and killed him.
Now, give me a year, just a good guess.
Well, probably right after World War II, probably 46 to 49, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Ron's
but
often
they did catch the guy.
Okay, they did catch him.
They did catch the guy.
All right, we got a caller calling in. See who it might be. Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland, Miss Doug. Hello.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, who's calling?
This is Red.
Hey, Red.
I just wanted to tell that man that's speaking, that woman's name was Alice Finkel, not Finkenstein.
Well, the story on that is it was Finkelstein,
No, it was Finkel.
and then
her granddaughter.
and then Miss Alice and Mr. Max and Miss Marie, they changed the name to Finkel.
Oh, they changed their name.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
happened quite a bit when names had certain rings to them.
You're right.
But did you know them, Red?
I know Miss Finkel's granddaughters.
Mm-hmm.
Did you remember the store?
Yeah, I remember the store.
Hmm.
I wonder if Eddie remembers the story out on 64 Highway that Scort Bryson run.
I do.
A lot of people don't remember him.
I remember it. And did he have a son, Jamie?
Yeah.
Jamie and I were in the same class at Bradley, and Jamie drove a Bradley County school bus for a lot of years.
For 100 years.
Yeah, and as far as I know, Jamie's still alive and kicking.
My kids rode that bus he drove when he was driving.
Now, where was the location of that business?
It was out there where Virgil Reimer used to have that store first. And then, no, I'm wrong. He had it first, then Virgil Reimer got it.
Okay. I have a nice picture of 64 Highway when it was still a 2-lane highway.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the little Burma shave signs down the side of the road.
Oh, my goodness.
It was right there at that road where you turn to go up there to that, where they have them rodeos.
Okay.
It was right there.
All righty.
Side of the highway on a 2-lane highway.
Yep.
Well, thank you for calling, Red. Appreciate it.
Well, I just wanted to tell Doc if he's still listening, as quick as he left, about 30 minutes later, the radio come back on.
It is possessed, let me tell you. Thank you.
Thanks, Red.
Bye-bye. I hear this story a lot about names. Like, I'm out of the Lingerfelt family in Polk County, and some of them called them Lingerfelton. Some of them called them Lingerfelt. Some of them, when they stayed around, they changed their names to Link.
Mm-hmm.
and some that changed their names to other things. And so when you start doing family history on that family, you can get lost in a hurry.
Oh, I
'cause you
bet,
can't- you
yeah.
know, it's the missing link, I always call it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, going back to those businesses at 5 Point, down in that lineup, Mr. Fred Hall had a furniture store.
I remember Fred Hall Furniture.
Of course, Lay's Dime Store was the Walmart in that.
Oh, you bet.
It-
You bet.
And
You could
they
smell the
they-
popcorn
that's
before you
right.
came
they
in the door.
They popped that popcorn, and you could smell it all over 5 Point. And then there was a couple of dress shops.
Well, Eddie, you've got the phones wound up this morning.
You
Let's
sure
get
do.
This call,
Here's another
which
call.
is always a good thing.
Well, I think they hung up.
Uh-oh.
Call back, caller. We'll try to put you on the air.
While we take our breath here, Debbie online's telling me that there was a grocery store. Apparently, she's looking in a directory of some sort. 1949, called 5 Points Food Market at 233 East Inman Street. And someone else is commenting that 5 Points in Inman Street could have been the original Motor Mile. Boy, wasn't that the truth?
That's right.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tell you, that grocery store, if I'm not mistaken, before it was that name, it was the Home Store. And
That's
it
right.
may have been where Mr. Norman Vaughn came to Cleveland as manager. The Vaughns were not originally from Bradley County, and they came to town, and him and Mr. Vaughn ended up being a very successful businessman and owned a lot of things in Cleveland and out of Cleveland. Vaughn Apartments, where the pretty chapel at Lee University is where they lived. They lived in that apartment house and owned it, and they were very prominent folks in Cleveland.
I sure hated to see that old building torn down, but what a magnificent sight this week with the snow around that
Boy,
new
wasn't it?
chapel.
Oh, yeah, gorgeous.
And I'm
Paul
thinking,
Kahn has just done wonders over at
he
Lee.
really has. And every now and then you'll hear somebody grumble about, they tore down this and they tore down that, but look what they saved. And
Yeah.
what a beautiful, beautiful addition to
and
Cleveland.
how
that
they
is.
help our economy.
Yes,
Oh,
and I
no
think they
doubt.
proved that long ago, about 20 years ago, when they passed out $2 bills to, I think, everyone that worked at Lee University, and all of a sudden the whole community was just
flooded with
with $2 bills, and it was just proof of how much of that affects our economy. CC Cards, the card house that was there close to the Lee University campus. Do you remember in 1957 when they tore the old house down and then they built the new beautiful house that's there now?
Yeah.
What did that old house look like?
Well, I'm not sure they completely tore it down. They might have renovated around it. I'm not sure. I did live in that community then, but I do remember the work going on there, and I remember something else. Mr. Card had a big spring in the backyard, and he put trout in that spring. And some of the neighborhood boys, I won't say
We won't mention who.
used to slip in there and catch a trout. Well, Lee University decided to build a new building across the street. I guess that's 15th Street northeast, and they hit water digging the basement, and they dried up the spring.
Oh, no.
And I think there was a little bit of legal talk about it in the day, and they filled the basement back in, and the spring continued to work.
There you go.
So,
But now I just know that the old house there is.
it's a pretty place. I guess Amy lives there
I
now.
really don't know, but the
think
original
Amy Lilio's.
house, the original building there, belonged to, and somebody online will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was out of the Inman family. Myra Inman's uncle lived on that property during the Civil War. And Myra Inman's family, too, lived there in the house that is the Welcome Center now for Lee University that faces Inman Street.
Ah.
So apparently that was their big farm there.
Well,
Got
you
another
know
caller.
the Cherokee chieftain came off of that property.
I do, and I'm glad it came off of a historic property.
I remember when that was being carved. I rode my bike up there and watched that guy carve that.
Well, my son Tim was going to Mayfield School, and they let class out to go down and.
That's the kind of education
That's
it's
right.
important.
You bet.
Let's get this caller.
Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland, Miss Doug.
Hello. Just sitting here remembering some things down on the south end on South Lee Highway.
Hey, Neil.
Howdy, how you doing?
Good.
Grew up in that area, some of which is still there, but in a different form. The old Cedar Lane Motel, I think the buildings or apartments now back in behind it. But like back in the 50s, there was a small lake there and a circular drive, and it literally was lined with cedars. A pretty attractive place. And the two-story building was there. At one time it was a mortuary, but earlier in the 50s it was the Cedar Lane restaurant. And for its time, probably one of the better or maybe the best restaurant in Cleveland. I had banquet room and so forth. And then I found the highway there, just a little piece, had the, and I barely remember this because I was really just a tow-headed kid at the time, but the old Airplane Market. And then Ballard had a junkyard there.
And a fruit stand.
Right. And
I learned that doing the racetrack documentary.
Oh, okay. Walking distance, a lot of times we would walk over there, us youngins, there's 4 of us, and we had a bird dog that was very loyal. Wherever we went, it was right on our heels. It would follow us over there, and one time it didn't see us leave, went to sleep, whatever, didn't see us leave anyway. And we got home, and we'd been home for a little while, and got a phone call, and I forget the guy's name. I should remember, but of course Daddy knew him well, and he said, "Carl, you need to come over here and get your bird dog. You didn't see the kids leave." It was not going to leave till it saw us leave, and it missed it. But and then of course the old golf course. As a matter of fact, our backyard just it joined the 5th fairway.
As Cleveland Country Club.
Right. And we used it as a playground. All the years we used it was the number 5 fairway there. We'd play baseball and football, whatever. But we always had the good sense when they got to the green to putt, we got off, sat down, and shut our mouths. and all the years we played right there at that number 5 green on the number 5 fairway, we never had not one complaint from a golfer because, like I say, we did have the good sense to be courteous.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes good play.
That's a good thing to teach children.
Of course, we were all the time finding golf balls in our yard and selling them back to the golfers, and that was a good deal. Over on Wildwood, again, I barely remember the old ice plant. I just remember, going by it, and there was something different about it that I'd always look at. It was because there wasn't another one to look at. But
Mr. Thompson owned it.
Who did?
Mr. Thompson. He lived in Annandale and owned the Cleveland Ice Company.
Never knew that.
Yes.
And then down to the Speedway, just remember it. Just remember what it looks like. In fact, I think at some point somewhere on the internet I've seen a picture of it. There was a tavern right by the Speedway, or just past the Speedway, called Everett's.
Yes.
It seemed like it set down below the highway grade. Sit down in there, and just
20th Century Club was down there too.
Was it? Like I say, I just remember it as a kid. Just remember what it looks like.
Now, was that one of the establishments that maybe had gambling going on in the back room?
I don't know.
I was never in it. I was too young, I guess, but possibly so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But just a few things that are down on the south end that I remember. Of course, there's a lot more, but
well, the White House, I guess you would call it a restaurant. It did I think you could bet which way a fly'd take off, whether it's going to fly left or fly right. But a good friend of mine, Q Hooper Jr.'s dad, Q Hooper Sr., owned it. And I remember one night my dad was a policeman, and he came home and he said, "Well, we had visitors last night." And my mom said, "What?" Said the governor sent in the highway patrol and they raided the White House.
Yeah,
and I think they tore it up pretty good. Had axe, chopped up the gambling machines,
and it was
so forth.
supposedly a really nice. I mean, everybody get dressed up and go there and eat, and then the other stuff was going on in the back room if you wanted to do that.
Optional
Okay,
entertainment.
optional entertainment.
One down across from Kyle's.
Yes.
Yes, that's where Norris Wrecker is now. I
Yeah,
believe.
exactly.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Neal. Let me ask.
Well, let me make a
Go ahead,
comment
go ahead.
first. Talking about the White House, back in the day, I was somewhat involved in politics, and I was a county executive at the time, and I lived out on Blythewood Road, and I was on my little riding tractor one afternoon mowing my yard, and I saw my wife coming from the house walking, and I thought, uh-oh, something bad's happened. You know, she knew I didn't want to be disturbed, and riding that tractor.
You was doing your farm therapy.
Well, I enjoyed it, getting on that tractor. And anyway, she said, you got an important phone call. And I said, who is it? She said, it's Ronald Reagan. Well, I thought she was pulling my leg. And I said, She said, come answer this telephone. So I go up there and answer the telephone. And sure enough, it was a lady from the White House that was setting up security arrangements for Ronald Reagan coming to Athens. And she, after we hung up, Miltine said, boy, I made a fool out of myself with that lady. She said, is Mr. Cartwright there? And she said, yes, but he's on his tractor mowing the yard. And she said, well, I really need to speak with him. And she said, well, who's calling? She said, the White House. And Miltine said she could remember the White House down on South. She said, whose White House? And said that lady said Ronald Reagan's White House. And so that was a funny story
I
at the
hope you're
time.
writing all this down. Let me ask you this. In our documentary that we're doing, somebody mentions a Mr. Barger that was an officer probably in the late 50s to early 60s. Do you know?
Yes, that was J.R. Barger, Jr. He had a nickname of Big Man, and he had gone to Bradley High School, was a good athlete in the late 30s, and he's deceased now, but he was the chief deputy under Paul Jones, and they had an exciting time.
Well, okay, now everybody's listening. If Mr. Barger is out of your family, I need a picture of him from the late 50s in his police uniform.
Okay, I tell you who would be most likely able to fill that order. Jim Barger, that was a principal here in the Bradley County Schools for a lot of years, is his younger brother, and Jim is still alive and doing well, and he's a nice guy, and he probably could get a picture for you.
See, that's the lead I was needing, because someone gave me apparently a picture of Barger Sr.
Okay, well, he was...
And I'm looking at it going, this is from the wrong time frame.
Well, I don't know what all Mr. Barger Sr. did, but he was a friend with my father, and he was a superintendent of the Bradley County roads. Now, not the elected office, but back then they had a little committee on the county court. It was JP's, and they, the way I remember it, they hired a superintendent, and Mr. Barger in those, when I was a really young guy, he was the man. And then later on, Mr. Barger, I believe, lost some of his eyesight, and he had a little concession stand in the post office. And if you go in the old post office on Broad Street, if you go in the front door and turn immediately to the left, like you're going...
I remember that, Eddie.
Like if you're going upstairs to Gary Davis's office, right there in that corner, and if you'll look in the marble floor that's there, you can see where the counters and stuff were attached to the floor.
Yes,
and Mr. Barger sold various and sundry things. You could get a Coke. You probably could get cigarettes.
A candy bar.
A candy bar. And he was a fine old gentleman.
Jiggle the phone button.
Jiggle the phone button, okay. It is jiggle.
Sometimes it lights up like it's on, but it's really not on. It's just playing tricks on us.
Now it's blinking.
Okay, thank you.
Dana McClanahan that teaches up at...
Now, let me go back just a minute before I forget it. Mr. Barger, did he live down on Varnell Road?
No.
Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Barger was out in the Hopewell community.
Okay, we got a call coming in now.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling, caller. Who's calling? What you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm just calling back. I just got through getting off the phone with Gary Godfrey, and he was my neighbor. If you look on 13th Street, and then it directly across from 13th Street, that's where Williams Grocery used to be.
Okay, I'll look.
Okay.
Now, while we're back
Appreciate it.
while we're back down on Wildwood Avenue, in the movies that came from Jack Cunningham's house, there's movies of Earl's Drive-In Restaurant down on
I
Wildwood.
remember Earl's.
Now, where was it sitting? I can see.
I think it was along there
Tinsley's.
about where Watson's grocery store is, and Tinsley's right across the street.
Got another call, folks. Thanks for calling. Who's calling? What you want to talk about?
Well, it's a bad actor, Doug.
Hey, how you
Doug.
doing, Doug?
Thanks for the call.
I want to ask Mr. Cartwright if he can confirm my memory, because my memory could be wrong. I remember a black bear being wounded somewhere down in the 5 Point area,
That's correct.
and it escaped that Phil Eyre branch and ran out past Sutherland's Lake, and I think it expired somewhere out that creek out there.
Okay, I'm not sure where it died, but I do remember the 5 Point episode, and I believe Mr. Leon Beatty, who was the cop on the beat at 5 Point for a lot of years, was involved in that, but I'm not sure about that.
Would have been around 62 or 64.
It could have been. I had already moved the store from 5 Point to the Village Shopping Center at that time, but I do remember it happening.
Okay, well, that's good, because that means my memory's working.
Right.
There is a picture of Mr. Beatty with that bear, I believe.
I think so.
And then I think one broke into Stampers, didn't it? A bear at some point in time?
I don't know about
Maybe
that.
if Joe's listening,
I've
he'll
never
call
heard
us.
that one. I can tell, Doug, that the first skate rink I remember was up at North Lee Highway, where you turn to go to what used to be the old airport, not the new jetport, where the bowling alley is now. That was the skate rink.
Yep.
I believe Harper may have built that, or his brother-in-law or brother.
Max Harper.
Max Harper.
We let me and my buddies go in there. I guess we were about 12 years old, early on Saturday morning, and let us just play tackle the man on the roller skate. And we played pretty rough, but when the crowd started coming in, we had to straighten up and act right, liability and all that. But, we played tackle the man and just knocked the heck out of one another. I could hit them pretty darn hard, I can tell you that. But I wasn't good on roller skates. And,
I wasn't too good on that black ice yesterday either. The law of gravity amazes me, that when you're falling down, that your feet can get so high in the air. I just don't understand how that works.
I'm finding out that the older you get, the more you appreciate fair weather and summertime, and I can't wait for spring and summertime to get here. I've had all the winter time I want.
You betcha.
Amen to that one. Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate you calling, Doug.
Enjoy the show.
Bye-bye. When you lived out on Blythewood Road,
Yes.
going south from there's a brick house.
Yes.
And next to that brick house is some kind of rock building. What is
Yes.
that?
Well, that was a J. Mac Hall home. Ron Rogers and Joy, his lovely wife, live there now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and they've lived there for a lot of years. They were my neighbor. As a matter of fact, when I built my house down there, I told Ronald about that place, and he bought it. But, yes, that old stone building is there, and I don't really know for sure what it is. I suspect it was some kind of keep things cool in there, a storm shelter. Ron knows. I've heard him talk about it. I think he got one of the Fred Hall's son, McCamey.
Mm-hmm.
I think he talked to McCamey about that, but it is still there.
Eddie, one of the memories of my childhood, on Key Street and 25th Street, where the present Walmart is, there used to be a big white house back in there.
T. Lloyd McLean.
Okay, with a lake in front of it.
It was called. The lake had a name. I've forgotten the name of the little lake.
They
But,
they built the Walmart on top of that lake.
yeah, they cut that hill down, filled all that in, and
Now,
right.
I am aware of there being water to the left of Walmart there, off off the bluff kind of like,
Behind-
and I'm wondering if that is the remnant of that lake.
I don't know.
I'd say it's some kind of wetlands for sure.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
I remembered that big house, but I never knew who lived there.
That was T. Lloyd McLean, and he had.
It was a majestic place. It was
It
huge.
was a nice place.
Mhm.
He had 3 daughters, and Betty retired from Cleveland Utilities, and Barbara, who was about my age, is deceased, and then I think Gail or Janet, I've forgotten the young one's name. She's still around Cleveland too.
Mhm.
Nice, good family. North Cleveland Church of God.
And that was before 25th Street was ever built. I think I don't think it was even there at the time. You just went north on North Lee Highway.
That's right.
At
Highway
that time.
11.
Mm-hmm. Got a caller calling in. Let's see who it might be. Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland. What you want to talk about?
I used to fish in that lake quite a bit. It's a beautiful little lake.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my private little fishing hole.
Was Doug? So, do you think the remnants of that lake is what's there behind Staples?
Billy Goat Lake just popped in my mind.
Billy Goat Lake.
That's what we called it, Billy Goat Lake.
I wondered why.
I hope that's not a reference to me.
You just.
That was the drainage area for the lake. It's always been a marshland down through there. There's actually been deer down in there. I used to take my dog walking down in that marshland.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that's part of the old Jack Walker homestead there too. We think. All right, thank you, Doug.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Over on when you're over there on Blythe Ferry Road, you got Charlie's, the restaurant there, and then you have 2 or 3 other things. And Cleveland Utilities has a place with a big tower there. I guess that's the stormwater, the new tower. Is that an Indian mound?
I don't know.
Sure looks like one to me. That's there fenced in with that tower. I think we might.
You're talking about the tower that was a fire department.
I'm calling it.
Tank.
It's a big tank.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's a floodwater tank. The way I understand it, when so much water comes into that area, that tank fills up.
Okay, all right.
And it takes that much water out of keeps places from being flooded.
Yes, and I think, and then I'm not sure that the few times we've used that, I think it's been really handy to keep all that stuff from washing away.
Right.
But I keep looking at that piece of ground enclosed in there within that fence, and I would really suspect that it's an Indian mound. And we just need to respect it and leave it alone. Being inside a fence is a very good place for it.
You bet. You bet. Got another caller calling me in. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town. Who's calling?
Well, whenever y'all are talking about the thing on Mouse, are y'all talking about the big tank on Mouse Creek Road?
Yes.
Well, the big mound is just the dirt that they dug out from under the tank to make the foundation for the tank.
Did you dig that hole?
No,
Okay.
but I watched them dig it.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
That happens sometimes.
Right.
And then sometimes they take the dirt and put it in a place that would route water a different way.
Right.
But it does look just like the mounds that are in Charleston that I know are mounds.
Speaking,
Well, you know that I live across the street
Oh, you got a mound in your
from
front
a
door.
great big Indian mound.
Yeah. And, that was treated with respect, I
It
think.
was, and it still is. You can't even you can't plant trees on it. You can't. Mr. Sharp has been hired by the powers that be to look after it and keep it mowed. And he was
Now,
going to
it
put
would be appropriate to plant a pecan tree on top of it.
Would it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a caller.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
Good, thanks, Doug. Ron Moore.
Hey, Ron.
What's up, Ron?
Who are you?
We're having a Murphy's Law Day here. How are you?
Doing great.
How's the local teams doing over in Franklin this morning?
Well, today is a consolation round in the final tonight. Cleveland looks like they're going to win the tournament again this year. They're ahead of everybody right now, and looks like they're set. And Bradley's going to finish
probably second or third, according to how they do this morning. Walker Valley is currently ranked 8th. They were doing real well and had a bad day yesterday. But Bradley has about 3 guys who could win state championships today. Cleveland has 4, and Walker Valley has 1. And so we're hoping for all those guys. And then there's a handful of guys who are going for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Right now.
We are well represented. That's
isn't
fantastic.
it amazing that out of the top 10 from the winter, that we'd have all 3 of our high schools in there.
They hate to see us walking in the door.
Yeah, you got to go through Bradley County to win something in wrestling in the state of Tennessee.
Well, and then if you add the Chattanooga area in with it, it's just amazing that. And this is the first year that they split the public schools in half. Now they got a big division and a small division. So this is the first time we've had that. And so in the smaller division, you've got teams like Alcoa and Pigeon Forge, Chattanooga Central, and Hickson all vying for the lead down there. So
how's Saudi Daisy doing, Ron?
Saudi Daisy's ranked 5th right now and still has a chance for 3 or 4 state champions.
And see, that's the thing about the event that was held a few weeks ago. Bradley stayed at home, and there you had Cleveland, and somebody that's obviously so high in the state. They've kind of fixed it now, so all the teams from Bradley County can't go.
Yeah, that's true.
Walker Valley feels that same way. They could have gone down there and done real well.
Yeah, what they need to change it to 14 from each district and have a 32-team playoff here, and you'd see Bradley County and Hamilton County win the top 3, 4, 5 positions.
All righty. Well, you keep us.
So are you keeping Eddie Cartwright straight today?
Yeah. Oh, Eddie's got the phones hot this morning. Everybody's calling in.
Well, good.
I'll have to tell you the Ronald Reagan story when you get home. You'll enjoy that.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you. And like I say, you're doing a great job there, and appreciate all that. And wanted to mention our good friend Louis Alford. I don't know if he's listening today or not, because he may be coming over here. His grandson will be wrestling for the 119-pound state championship today.
Well, we wish not.
Will that be one of Aaron's children, or who
Fuller.
is?
It'll be our Knox Fuller.
Aaron Fuller's son.
Woohoo! And he's a good one. He's really got
that Alford blood in him. They're all good athletes.
Ron, he's just a freshman, isn't he?
Yeah, he's just a freshman, and
I tell you what, Bradley's got a whole bunch of those freshmen, so they're up and coming again.
If you can make it into the top 6 here at this level, it's pretty darn good. So we'll probably Bradley will have 4, and Cleveland will have 5. Could have 6 in there, and Walker Valley will have probably 3 in there. So pretty good representation, Bradley County.
That's
right. All righty. Well, have a good time. Don't eat too many of those. Don't eat too many of those roasted pecans.
Well, they're not open yet, but I'm waiting for them to open up here in just a minute.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
He says, you come in the door, it's like the popcorn at Lay's. You come in the door and you can smell those roasted pecans.
Well, old Ron, he's not all bad. He's got good eyesight. I saw a picture on Facebook of him when he was young, and he was with one of the best-looking young ladies you ever saw. And
he says he'll tell you that he told me he had money.
Well, I tell you what, that was a good picture of both of you, really.
It was fun. I was glad somebody put that up.
Here's another incoming call. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town. This is Doug.
Oh, yeah, this is Larry Ledford.
Hey, Larry.
I have a couple of stories about the spot up there.
Yeah.
My uncle, his name was Shorty Guerin, Grover Guerin. He was a house painter. Now,
good man, too.
Yeah. That was a very popular restaurant to eat at, because you could go in there and eat and get out real quick, And if you remember, when you went in there, you didn't pay when you left, and you just told Perkle what you had ordered, and he totaled it up. But Shorty had eaten, and he was standing there, and he was looking at the little license on the wall there, and they have the state of Tennessee, your restaurant's rated A, B, or C, I think. And if you serve ice milk like they did in their frosty machine, a B was the best rating you could get, you know. And Shorty looked over at Perkle and said, "Hey, Perkle, said, how come this restaurant's only got a B rating?" And Perkle just looked around and said, "Did you ever take a look at the people that come in here and eat?"
That's a good one.
Back when Tom Rowland worked at the radio station, you know, at WCLE used to be upstairs there above it. And Tom, he was kind of a rascal in the way there. He'd always pick on people. And one day he was on the air there, and he was talking about the customers coming out of the spot down there. Said, "Boy," said, "they're coming out and they're just dropping like flies, like they've been poisoned or something, you know." And that Perkle, he didn't have much of a sense of humor. He threatened to sue Tom over that if he didn't quit saying stuff on the air about him, you know. But really, it's half of his business, I think. You were talking about the Stone Cipher there. He had a brother there, Randall Stone Cipher, is a dentist there, and he used to be a neighbor of ours down there in the country. And I heard this on him, and I suspect it's true. I don't know, but him and his wife had gotten into kind of a tilt or whatever, you know, as married people do. And they were to the point where they weren't speaking very much to each other. And she had fixed supper for him, and had fixed pancakes. And he was sitting there at the table, and he's eating his pancakes, and he wasn't talking to her, and he just made a real low comment like, "You burnt the pancakes." She said she perked up, walked over and looked, and picked the plate up and walked to the back door where she could get a little more sunlight on it. And she took her fork and turned the pancake over, looked at it, and it was burnt. And she took the plate and the pancakes and the fork and threw them out in the yard. She turned around to him and says, "Fix your own damn pancakes."
That's a good story.
You got to be married to understand that. That's all I have.
Appreciate you calling.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Snack House.
Go ahead.
At 5 Point. It was, you know, you talk about good restaurants and all that. Well, back in the day, it was the good restaurant. I mean, I can remember playing basketball at Bradley for Coach Smith, and so especially if we'd played McMinn County or Polk County or somebody in that direction. As we came back into town, usually you would come back under the underpass at 5 Point. Well, he would stop at the Snack House, and I can still see him getting out his roll of $50. 50-cent pieces were used back then, and he would give us boys each one of those $50. And we could go in the snack shop. 35 cents got you a hamburger and some fries, and the other 15 cents got you a drink.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so
it
for
is.
50 cents, we got to eat after. Now, we didn't get it after every game, but a lot of games we did get it. And I can remember, of course, Pledger Collins was a living legend at 5 Point, managing and cooking at the Snack House for Joe Moore, and that's Ben Moore's father, not the young Joe that's in the pharmacy business here now, but Mr. Joe was a retired railroad man, and Ben was working there some too, and running a drugstore next door, and a lot of people don't realize that there was a hotel upstairs, and they had sleeping rooms. And I think what it was mainly put in for was railroad people that could come in there and would stop, and they had a clean room to sleep in. And then, of course, the Snack House would get their business if they wanted to eat, and if they were sick, the drugstore filled their medical needs. But it was really a neat place, and, of course, the depot next door was open and going, and their passenger trains were still running, and it was nostalgia was really at its height as far as I'm concerned.
Was there another building there next to what's still standing for Moore's Pharmacy?
Yes, that was the Snack House.
That was
building.
the Snack House.
And if you'll look on the side of the pharmacy building, you can see where the stairway went upstairs
Yeah.
to those rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a closed off door.
That's right.
Right there.
Bricked
That's
up.
still visible.
That's
It
right.
says, someone else had mentioned that was for the layover, the train engineers and those kinds of people that
Right.
were
Mhm.
staying around to the next shift or something.
Now,
of course-
the pharmacy had a restaurant or a snack bar in it too, did it not?
It did. It had a little counter and had the best smell. I told Ben Moore, I said, Ben, if you could bottle up that smell and sell it, it smells so good in that pharmacy. And then, of course, the action was on the honeysuckle bank in front of the depot.
Mhm.
And there was a little cab stand there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that cab stand
Well,
where the
I
cabs never
guarantee-
moved.
That's right. You could.
Even as a child, I thought those cabs never go anywhere.
Well, and they had when their phone rang, everybody in Five Point knew it. They had a big bell outside that little building. And that phone would ring and that bell would sound. You'd think that there's a fire truck coming. But anyway, they'd answer the phone. It wouldn't be long till somebody came out with a little brown bag and they'd get in that cab and they'd go deliver it.
Mhm.
Now, sometimes they'd drive up and it was to go.
Yeah.
It was a going concern.
Now,
Then
who ran that stand? do you
Well, in my memory, Jack McClellan ran it when I had the store down there, and I don't know who all else has been there, and of course right down the street then the county judge owned a meat processing place.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, Mr. Eldridge, Mr. Nat Eldridge owned a little meat processing place, and right after World War II, he was the first one in Cleveland to come out with, people didn't have freezers in their home. He rented lockers.
Now I've read that.
You could go down, and my dad had one rented. You could buy a quarter of a beef, a half a beef, a whole beef. You could buy pork. He would slaughter it, process it, wrap it, and put it in your locker.
Mm-hmm.
And you had a key to that locker. And you go down there and you get so much stuff and take it home with you.
That's amazing.
Doug, we need to take a little break
Yep,
here and
it's 11 o'clock.
run some ads, and we'll be back with you in just a few minutes, folks. Thanks for tuning in this morning.
Just a reminder, you're listening to WOOP FM 99.9 on your radio dial. This is Old Town Cleveland with Debbie Moore and special guest Eddie Cartwright. Let's listen to a little bit of music right now.
Springtime is near, my darling. You say that you are going away, but my heart will be with you, my darling. And I'm counting now the days. I know that soon I'll have to travel. I know I'm over the hill. I feel so all alone, my darling, since you've been gone. When I heard On the hill, the whippoorwill now sing. I know that soon I'll have to travel. I know I'm over the hill. I feel so all alone, my darling, since you've been gone. And I heard that first whippoorwill. The flowers are blooming, little darling, with the budding of the trees. I hear the night birds crying. I know that they are warning me. I know that soon I'll have to travel. I know I'm over the hill. I feel so all alone, my darling, since you've been gone. When I heard that first whippoorwill. I know that soon I'll have to travel. I know I'm over the hill. I feel so all alone, my darling, since you've been gone. When I heard that first whippoorwill. When I heard that first whippoorwill. When I heard that first whippoorwill.
All right, we are back, and we've had some good discussions off of air, and we're gonna get back on air now and talk about things that used to be here in Cleveland. We've talked about 5 Points. Here's two things. We had talked earlier about some water entertainment that Eddie Cartwright was involved with. I want to bring up the VFW and the American Legion pools. Those are just vivid memories of my childhood. You guys got any memories concerning those two?
I mean, I think Eddie talked about it before. There was a big pool over there by the American uniform too.
Yeah, the American Legion and the VFW pool. I'm too old for those, but my time, the Cleveland City pool was, well, where the parking lot ended up for American Uniform Company.
Did they pull the water out of that cold spring there?
No.
Okay.
It was city water,
I started
and
saying-
it was in the day when you certainly couldn't get away with this now. It had no filtering system. The water was free because the city owned the pool and used city water. And on Wednesday afternoon, we'd close. I was a lifeguard there, and we would close the pool. and Ted Smith and Reggie Hickson and Stacy Bauer and Dewey Woody and myself over the years were lifeguards there. We had a fire hose and we had a fire plug connection, and we'd hook up that big hose and drain that pool and take that fire hose and knock off all the skim and dirt and
the bathtub ring. So
that's right. And then we would close the drain, and we would fill it back up with fresh, cool, clean, and cool was the word, because on Thursday morning, buddy, it was cold in that pool, and we would put a little copper sulfate in it to keep the algae down, and we had a basket room, and I remember Reggie Law, who's around town here now, was a basket room boy, and the Griffith boys, Hugh and his brother, worked in the basket room. Jane Galt Knox, who later on married Ted Smith, worked in the concession stand, as did Harriet Chapman Runyon and some others, but they were the ones when I was there. And I started out with Shorty Jordan managing that North Cleveland pool. And
that's great.
And then the other years, Woodrow Wilson, the principal over at Mayfield, he managed it. And it was great. I tell people I'm sure glad nobody drowned, because I'd be sitting on that lifeguard chair, and this is not a true story, by the way, and I would tell that, Milteen would try to sit in that lifeguard chair with me. and we were sweethearts, of course, but it was a fun time, a good time, and
and it's I can't find any pictures of that pool, or I haven't seen any pictures of that pool, or if I've seen them, I've not known it was that pool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, if I don't have one either, but I can remember a guy named Ben Brown, who was a plumber and kind of a He-Man kind of character, would dive off the roof of the concession stand into the shallow water of that thing. Of course, he had hit flat, and he was pretty much a daredevil. But it was a fun place, and it had a jukebox, and boy, it had all the latest hits on it, and
there you go.
That thing was going 24 hours a day, it seemed like. A lot of romances blossomed out there.
I bet.
Let's get this call.
We got a call coming in. Thanks you for calling. Old Town Cleveland, Mr. Doug, who's calling?
I've got memories of that pool.
Oh, okay, Doug. Tell us.
When do you think it closed?
Oh, I can't remember when it closed.
Okay.
All I know is I was very, very young, and I was scared to the deep end. I took swimming lessons there, but I never could swim very good, and I was scared to death of the deep end, so I stayed on the shallow end. And I was walking on the bottom of the pool, and I stepped on some broken glass, and I cut my foot, and it bled. Unbelievable. I remember my cousin carried me out. They called my mother. She drove up, and he carried me and put me in the car, and I had to go get stitches at Speck Hospital. And the blood was pouring out of my foot. It scared me to death. It scared every teenager in the pool to death, too. And that's what I remember about that pool. All the pretty girls, I remember, I was old enough to look at a pretty girl. That's where the pretty girls hung out. And that's where all Bradley teenagers hung out. And that was a fun pool, though.
I remember we worked out an agreement with Bradley High School, and they would take, in the fall of the year, when September, I assume, they would let the PE classes come down there during their hour of PE class.
Wow.
Man, today you couldn't do it. Insurance would eat you alive, but it was a different day, and ever Tom, Dick, and Harry wasn't going to sue you over stumping a toe,
Mm-hmm.
But it was a fun place.
Right. I might have been 8 years old, but probably younger than that, maybe 6 or 7.
Wow.
Anyway, it's one of my first memories because I bled so much.
Well, thanks for bringing back that wonderful childhood memory, Doug. Bye, buddy.
As my cousin carried me out to my mom's car, blood was gushing out of my foot.
Oh, my goodness.
I didn't die or something.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you calling.
Bye-bye.
It's a wonder he didn't die because there was no chlorine in that pool.
Well, and on top of that, I remember on those Wednesday afternoons when we'd close the pool, Reggie Hickson was one of the lifeguards, and his daddy was Lon Hickson, who owned Lon's Sandwich Shop and it was out there on North Lee Highway. And old Reggie'd jump in his daddy's car and run out there to the Lon sandwich shop, and Lon made wonderful barbecues, sandwiches, and they were those that they put in a steamer and mashed flat. And he'd bring back a sack full of those things, and we'd sit out there with he and I and whoever the lady was running the concession stand and eat barbecues and work on cleaning that pool. And it was a great place for a young guy like me to make $40 a week and get to sit in that lifeguard chair and look at all those pretty ladies. I tell you, one of the people that I saved one time, I remember three times I had to pull people out that were in real trouble. One of them was Clifton Weaver.
Oh,
Clifton came out there. He was a little boy. And I had all kind of little boys, 6, 7, 8 years old, to jump off in the deep end in that pool. Well, he did, and he didn't come up.
Thank goodness you were looking.
And I bailed out of there.
Thank goodness you weren't looking at your beautiful wife-to-be.
I bailed off of there and went down there, and old Clifton's eyes was about as big as quarters. And when I touched him, boy, he grabbed me, and, I just pushed off immediately from the bottom of the pool and came up by the ladder, and he got out. Another one was David May's wife, Linda. She said she'd already gone down twice before I saw her. And she said, I thought, he's not going to see me. And Linda's my first cousin. And then another one was the Kaler fellow that works at the Bank of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And he married Bonita Payne.
Mm-hmm.
And Bonita, I pulled her out. She was in trouble.
Isn't that something that you actually know who they are? Let's get this call.
Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling. Oh, I believe they've already hung
Sorry,
up.
we pushed the wrong button. Call us back.
Call back again.
I love that. Now, I know that Terry McGuire, the late Terry McGuire, was on our show, and I'm so sorry that we weren't recording the shows back then. And he talked about South Cleveland Pool.
Yes.
Was it run by the city, too?
Yes.
And I think he made 15 cents a day or something, folding towels or something.
I think the caller's called back. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
This is Vicki Rayfield.
Hey,
Miss
Vicki.
Vicki, what's up, sister?
Oh, I'm just sitting here daydreaming.
Have we brought back some memories?
Yes. Y'all were talking about the cab company. Debbie Dad worked there at that cab company, and I don't know what he done. I thought he drove a cab when he worked there.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of suspicious.
But they found a business card here that had Ralph Buckner's cab on it, and I took it up and gave it to his son at the funeral home one night.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. And I missed out on some of it. I've been getting phone calls, but the pool y'all are talking about, is it the one behind Doc and Mary Caldwell's house that was there across from Jackson Chair Company?
No, that's the one South Cleveland we're just now starting to talk about. Did you go there?
No, I never went there. I just stood out in their backyard and wished I was there.
I didn't know who lived close to there, but we had some fellas that came on years ago that talked about Oldfield, growing up in Oldfield, and they all worked at the pool. That was like the only place that the boys could get a job except carrying out groceries.
So y'all hadn't talked about the pool that was there behind?
No. I mean, we just now mentioned it.
Chair Company, and I remember it, and that was Doc and Mary Caldwell that lived there, and we'd go see. And I do remember the hospital that was down by Hall Chevrolet.
Yes, P&S.
And the several houses, I don't know how many between where the automobile place was and the dry cleaners. But I do remember never went in it, but I do remember it.
Mm-hmm. I saw a picture of the dry cleaners the other day that was from 1957, and you could just see the corner of the building next to it. And unfortunately, I've never found a picture of P&S. I'm sure there's one that exists, but
As I remember it, it had a canopied walkway going in the front of it.
It was a pretty nice place. I mean, it was a nice building, but now, do y'all remember the little, have y'all talked about the little, it was almost like a little Airstream.
Silver Diner.
That was right across from the dry cleaners. Remember that? It was right on the corner there.
Yes, I remember it well.
What was the name of it?
Silver Diner.
Oh.
And they had moved it from 3 Point. It was down there next to BB Food Store for a long time.
I did find a picture of that recently.
Did you?
I think so.
I wonder who got that treasure when they moved it, probably. I wish it was in my yard. I remember going in there and them just taking a potato, and they must have had a contraption. They could just make the fries. Those were so good.
Homemade fries.
And I had a sister-in-law that worked in that restaurant that was by the drugstore down by the underpass, you know, the little long, narrow restaurant. Her name was Betty Rayfield, and she worked there as a teenager.
Is that the snack shop, Eddie? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, snack shop.
Was that connected with the Hyde family? Hyde.
Well, the Moore families who owned it, Callaways and the Moores owned it when I remember it.
Well, it might have been just somebody that worked there. Their last name was Hyde. But that was my 4 things to
Okay, thanks, Vicki.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Which means my mom's listening. Hi, Mom. I thought of something else, but it left me. The phone's ringing again, Mr. Doug. Push the button.
Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland.
Yeah, Doug, I got a question for Deb, and I'll let you go. I got to go work here in a minute. Deb, you remember Martin Theater, right?
Yes.
Back when I worked at Emerson Street Cars back in '65, me and James Tatum and James Branham, our picture was actually showed in the Martin Theater. There's advertised in Emerson Street Cars. Is there any way we could find out who's got that film, or is it gone?
So you remember a movie being made?
Well, it was an advertisement.
An advertisement.
Yeah, it showed us washing cars at Emerson Street Car Wash.
And it was, I don't know. I was thinking about something else. I have no idea. How funny. I imagine it's gone.
I hate that. But,
unless some pack rat has it, and we love those pack rats.
Okay, good.
Thank you. That is funny. And that reminds me that there was a kind of a film made to try to get businesses to come to Bradley County about the same time that Bow Waters came in. Do you have any recollection of that? No. I can't.
I know Cleveland has an official song.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on the city commission, and this would have been probably the middle 70s, Merchants Bank.
Living the good life, right? I always loved that little song.
Yeah, and we voted on it at the and made it a part of the minutes of the city commission meeting that it was the official song of Cleveland.
This was probably in the late 50s. There was some movie company that came through and did some kind of thing to try to bring industry to Bradley County.
No, I tell you what I do remember, and it was on the computer not long ago about the fox hunt.
That is the greatest thing. You go to YouTube and I believe put Cleveland, Tennessee fox hunt and get to watch it, and it's kind of that same thing too to bring people here.
Wow.
Yeah, and I could recognize some of the people in the film.
Well, now the governor I think's in there.
He's in there, and so was Leroy Reimer.
Mm-hmm. We need to get together and recognize those people because I think most everybody recognizes them.
Are dead and gone.
Gone, except you, Eddie.
Yeah.
We're glad you're still here.
We've got
Boy, isn't it
call.
something when you
hang on, caller. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Call us back.
Call us back.
It's amazing how all of a sudden you're the old guy that remembers all this stuff. You know, it doesn't seem like it's any time till this not long ago this stuff was happening, and then I get to thinking about it, and it's 40 years,
it says
50
that
years.
Life's like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes.
There you go. We got that caller back, I think. Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland.
Hey, this is RD.
Hi, RD. Good morning.
Good morning. I've got a question that since I've moved here in '88, I've always wondered. When you're going up 75, you got the big quarry that's filled up with partially with water.
Mm-hmm.
What was that quarry for? Was that just for the interstate construction, or did they quarry stone for local buildings?
No, that was there long before the interstate. A black family owned that property, and Bradley County contracted to crush stone there to go on our roads. And it, of course, as you do here, the limestone, you hit water, and it began to fill up, and they kept it pumped out for long periods of time. But it was actually a rock quarry, and they crushed stone for our our streets.
Well, RD, I'm glad you asked that question because every time I drive by there, I wonder, and now I know.
Yeah, I've always heard since I moved here that there was a couple people drowned in there.
There was.
I've heard that about every quarry I've ever gone by. Well, I'll be darned. So, now I know. So
that's why you listen to us, or they'd catch you up since it took you so long to get here. Bye-bye.
You know, they did, a youngster drowned, and for years a cross hung.
Yeah, I remember that cross being there.
That's the reason the cross was there.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
And Mr. Corn Sr., Colonel Corn, and I, when I was manager at the chalet many years ago, and he and I were friends, he was a great fisherman and loved to go to unusual places. And we had been told that in that quarry is some of the biggest catfish around. Mm-hmm. Now, whether there is or not, I don't know. We never caught them. But that was a story. It's always went around. Excuse me. Divers would go out there and play with their equipment, and they said, they could see them in there, but never caught any of them anyway.
Out on where Fort Lightning is, the intersection of Wildwood Avenue and 64, there's what's a car lot now. Used to be a gas station. Who owned that in your lifetime, or do you remember?
I remember a partnership that was there, and it was Clifton Pierce, a former sheriff, and Milford Miller, former Bradley County Road superintendent, had it at one time. Now, if you took the right fork, right there across the street from that station was a little bitty station.
I remember that.
I mean, it was a little place.
Was it a pure station?
I'm not sure what the brand was. And it backed up against that stone wall that's there. And then if you come right on up the street to the funeral home, just past it in the curve, the gas station building is still there. And that was a Shell station, and my father was there 18 years in that little station. And right straight across the street, there was a Pan Am station. And there's not anything on that corner now. But a fellow named Bill Carson owned that property, and his house sat right there next to where those tombstones are now. Mr. Carson lived.
I'm loving all this.
We got another call calling in, folks. Let's see who it is. Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland.
Hi, Doug. I asked Debbie, did she know that Johnny Myers that worked at that cow company at their 5 Point?
Johnny Myers.
No. I mean, I didn't. I was just a kid then, so all I knew was that the cars never moved. Thanks, Anna. Bye.
Well, Cartwright?
Yes, ma'am.
My mother worked for you when you first went to the Chalet Motel.
What was her name?
Myrtle Hester.
Yes, ma'am. I sure do remember.
Well, when I heard your voice, I said, yeah, that's the one I know.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you, my dear.
Bye-bye.
But I saw movies the other day of that gas station, early mid-50s. Tall, skinny, black-headed guy comes walking out. Another guy, kind of heavy-set, drives off with a race car hooked to his car.
That Shell station?
The one at Fort Lightning.
Yeah,
the big station.
Well, Mr. Dunlap had the creamery on the left fork.
Where the car wash is now. Let's get this caller.
Another caller. Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
Doug's calling, Doug. I used to go swimming in that rock quarry out by Cleveland State, as did many teenagers my age. They had a big fence up to keep us out, but we ignored that. Sometimes they'd come down and yell at us and make us get out, but they had a big rock cliff. You can still see it there. It's about 40 feet tall. If you were real brave and you weren't gravity challenged like I was, you could climb up that rock cliff and dive off in there. I remember climbing up it once and just jumping in. I couldn't dive. I remember the Tarver boys, they were used to heights. One of them worked out west. They were in steel buildings, and it wasn't nothing for him to be 40 feet tall. He climbed up there, and I was telling him how scared to death I was of heights. And he kept saying, yeah, I am too. And all of a sudden he did a quadruple backwards dive off of there. And I just wanted to get my hands on his neck and choke him to death. He made me so mad. And the other thing I remember about it, little brim. It's full of little brim. I don't know about the catfish. Little brim would come up and nibble on you when you're swimming. And that's very frightening. I wanted to get out of that water, and I did as quick as I could. I can't stand those little brim nibbling. I always had a thought about piranha and stuff. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
What about on 3rd Street at Ocoee Street? Hart's Auto Parts, the mid-50s? There must have been 4 gas stations there on that corner, or 2 or something originally. 2 of the buildings I know are still there.
Mr. Bearden had one of them, and Romeo Montgomery worked with him.
Mm-hmm. I believe Bearden's faces 3rd Street.
It does.
And then the one that faces Ocoee Street is the one I'm thinking about. And I have, in the mid-50s, it looks like it's that building that somebody is driving a Hart's Auto Parts place, and they go in and they show a movie of the counter.
I think we've got a caller
kind of a
calling in.
heavy-set, black-headed guy. I think we lost that one.
Caller, call back.
Well, I tell you, talking about that area, when I had the store right here next door to where we're broadcasting from, I had a friend come in, and he worked for Bob Card, and he said, hey, I know where we can buy a restaurant. Got all the equipment in it. All we got to do is start paying the rent and stock it. And it was that little beer joint right there on 3rd Street. Behind the building you're talking about where the parts place, there was a little joint there. And so we hired a fella to run it. Well, when we started to get our beer license, my friend was from Chattanooga. Well, he was having trouble getting license here. Well, you know who got the license and whose name they were in. And everything was going. We'd hired this fella that worked at Bowater and his son to manage it. About a month in, Bernard Snyder called me, and he said, Cartwright, said Saturday night had a knife fight in your place down there, and said it looked like they'd been killing hogs in there.
Oh, my goodness.
And said, we have padlocked it. Well, needless to say, the banner picked up on it. My wife didn't know I owned part of it. My mama didn't know I owned part of it. And here I was. My name said the beer license is in the name of Eddie Cartwright. I caught a lot of grief over that. I never went into that kind of business again, especially without my folks knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
My partner was a guy named Johnson Dodd, and he lived in Chattanooga, and he was credit manager for Bobby Card at the Ford place.
In that general area, up behind the Princess Theater, was Griffith's Cycle Shop. Any memories? Any memories of that? They were a Harley Davidson dealership, weren't they?
Right. No, that's too late for me. Earlier than that, Howard Griffith owned a bicycle shop right next to the Coney Island hot dog stand. Coney Island was direct. There's a parking lot now across from Hardwick, where Hardwick retail store is now. That other side of the street had Miller Real Estate and had Jute Miller's Barber Shop. And had Griffith Cycle Shop and the Coney Island hot dog, and then on the corner there was a feed store. But anyway, that's where I remember. My first bicycle came from Mr. Howard Griffith. It was a Swin bicycle. Boy, I thought it was a stuff. Well, it really was. It
big fat tires on it.
Big fat tires, white wall.
Did it have a horn? Did it have a horn button?
It had a box with a horn button. It had a light on the front fender.
Oh, you had the deluxe model.
Right, and it had a luggage rack on the back fender. And here's the kicker on it. It had a spring under the handlebars, a knee action spring, I called it. Oh, man, I wish I had it now. I gave it to my nephew, and he took it home to Cincinnati, and they sold their home place not long ago, and I said, hey, look around. If that bicycle's still there, I want it. Back. Yeah, I'd restore it now.
Oh, Eddie, that was a Cadillac back then.
It was,
buddy.
And my folks were not rich folks. They were... they were just normal working folks. My dad, like I say, was a policeman, but they spurged, and bought me a Swin bike.
Mm-mm.
That and my Red Ryder BB gun was the two things I remember growing
You'll
up.
shoot your eye out, Eddie.
By the way, for Christmas, I got a great daughter-in-law. They live over in Germantown, and they know that I like and identify with the Christmas story.
I love the Christmas story.
Where you BB gun, you shoot your eye out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you'll remember in there, one of the big deals in there is he won that lamp, that lady's leg.
Lady's leg with a fishnet stocking on it. Yeah.
I got one of them for Christmas.
The
this year.
glow of electric.
Hey,
sex in the window.
that lamp that she gave me for Christmas, it sits right beside my computer at home now. on my desk.
Darren McGavin was the father.
That's right. That's right.
I love
Great
that story.
movie. Great
and,
movie.
a couple of weeks ago, when I got a notice that my Confederate Voices had won a national award, I sent Ron a text and said, "Hey, I won a major award." And he comes back with, "Was it a leg lamp?" No. But
I forget now. It had "fragile" on the box.
Fragile.
Yeah, yeah. It's French, he said.
I think that, and I love the their introduction to Chinese turkey when those guys are singing to them. It's my favorite part. Oh, that's great, guys. What up on close to where Joe Rogers' Office Supply is now, that street that's running north to south behind there.
Worth Street.
Yeah, there used to be a dentist office or something up there that had a steel in front of it. Did I dream that in my sleep? Oh, they're staring at me like I have bugs coming out my ears.
No, I don't remember.
Remember
Had
a steel?
a what?
A steel, a moonshine steel. Just, I mean, it was all chopped. I mean, it was obviously had been chopped up or something.
I vaguely remember that, but I couldn't tell you where that was. But
it seems like to me it was on there on Worth Street. Oh, somebody online said it was Dr. Pettit had a steel at his office.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but that was up over Stampers.
Okay, I'm in the wrong place then.
Yeah, Dr. Pettit was upstairs over Stampers.
Well, there was something sitting out in one of those yards on that other street. I think Dr.
Can I tell a quick story
You
about
can tell anything you
Dr.
want.
Pettit?
Go ahead. He's not
Well,
here to
I had
defend
known
himself.
Dr. Pettit. His sons were in school when I was, and he was my grandmother's doctor. And anyway, we knew the Pettit family. And so when I had this little store right here in the village one day, I had a little touch of hemorrhoids.
Oh, my.
And Doc came in and bought a sport coat from me, and I told him about it. He said, "What time do you eat lunch?" And I told him. He said, "Come up to my office, come in the back door, and I'll look at you and tell you." So needless to say, and you
I'm
can
wondering where this is going.
Well, you can picture this in your mind. He turned me upside down in that chair to look at the area where you have hemorrhoids. And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You've got 2 small external hemorrhoids." And I said, "What do I do about it?" He said, "Well, I believe I could just clip them off and you'll be all right." Well, he froze me with that spray freeze, and he clipped them off. And I said, "I've got to go back to work." He said, "Have at it." So I came back down here to my store, and I thawed out in about an hour. And, buddy, I thought I was going to die. And I still remember this old Jewish salesman came in, good friend, sold men's ties. I said, "Hey, if you'll drive me home, I'll buy your line of ties next time you come to town." He said, "What's wrong?" And I told him. And so I headed off home. Now, that's my Dr. Pettit story. And when Dr. Pettit retired, they had a little retirement party up at the Holiday Inn on top of the hill. I was invited, and they asked people to tell something they knew about Doc Pettit. Well, when I started that story, he started saying, "Be careful now. Now, be careful. Hush, be careful." But I serve on the board down at Life Bridges and have a long time, and Doc Pettit was on that board, and he was a great guy to have on the board. He would do free things. He had retired, but he would do examinations and stuff for Life Bridges, and he was a great guy in my book. I liked him. His wife's still alive, Carolyn. Yeah.
Well, I want to say, thanks to PDAB and Aunt Hazel Taylor that was on here last week.
Good show.
I tell you, I got more messages and stuff from people that wants me to bring Aunt Hazel back because they loved her talking about making sorghum. That was the big thing.
Oh,
is that,
yeah.
that they
Yeah.
finally knew where sorghum came from.
Let me ask a question about that. What? And I'm being raised on Magnolia Avenue, not far from the courthouse. I wasn't around stuff like that was being made. What is the difference between regular molasses and blackstrap sorghum?
I think she decided last week there's no difference. It's just that different people call it different things.
Okay, well, now that makes sense because I've tasted some of it that tastes strong, and then I've tasted mild. I suspect it was cut with syrup or something to tone it down.
Or she was talking last week about how you had to know exactly how to boil it and all this stuff. So it may be something that they did to it, or it may be in the, what they started with to make it. But it was absolutely fascinating to listen to her talk about, her dad making that stuff, and it brings you back to a time that you realize everybody was self-sufficient.
Oh yeah. My family still makes cane syrup down in southwest Louisiana. That's a big deal every fall, and
I think it's all kind of the same thing. We just call it different
sure.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Another building that doesn't exist, I remember it, but nobody else seems to remember it, Eddie, is the guardhouse that stood, I think was
Stewart School.
Crossing Guardhouse. Yeah, you remember it too.
Well, sure.
What happened to it, and why did it go away?
Don't know why it went away. I know why it came.
Mm-hmm.
The Highway Patrol used it. Tennessee Highway Patrol used it. Later on, Cleveland Police Department used it. Especially, they used to have a Cleveland policeman that worked that intersection at school time. And I remember who one of them was regularly, Russell Fowler. Russell had owned a store on Peoples Street. Fowler Golden Supermarket to start with. Mr. Golden died, and then Mr. Fowler owned it. And then when he closed it up, he was a policeman. And Mr. Fowler worked that intersection for a lot of years. And at one time, it had a phone or two lines that went in there, and it had phones. And I can remember seeing the Highway Patrol car parked there, and there'd be one in there working at the desk, probably doing his paperwork, and he could use that phone. But I don't know.
Times certainly have changed, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't
Doug,
know.
let's get this call. Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks for calling. Who's on there?
This T. Andy.
All right, buddy. How you
What's up,
doing?
buddy?
I'm doing fine. I don't talk to David about the fish truck, but that blackstrap molasses you were talking about was the molasses that was overcooked.
Oh.
Overcooked. Is that why it had such a strongs?
Let it cook too long.
Oh,
And that
okay.
Or
caused the
some people
strong
may have
taste.
liked that and cooked it longer. Yeah. Okay, thanks, T.
Yeah.
Tell me about the fish truck.
Yeah, the fish truck comes March the 1st at 11 o'clock down at the co-op.
Okay, and what number do people need to call if they need to order fish at?
478-2405.
Okay, well, you have a fish truck coming March the 1st, so I think it's probably going to snow or something that day.
Yeah, that's ice fishing.
Ice fishing. That's about how it's been the last few times you've had a truck. It's either come a monsoon or something crazy's happened every time. But we'll hope you have a
Worse over, been worse weather over Arkansas than it has here. But, the girl said they're going ahead with it anyhow. So
okay. Well, we'll hope for the best. So if they need to stock their ponds,
somebody needs fish or their neighbor, tell their neighbor about it.
all righty. And then if they happen not to call, they can show up at 11 o'clock on March the 1st, and you probably have some extras.
Oh yeah. And you stay out with the ice.
All righty, T.
Ice skating.
Yep. Bye.
'Cause I know how that is.
All right. Bye-bye. I think one of the times the truck wasn't working right and it wasn't aerating, so everybody was coming to get one bag of fish left with 3. They said, no, please take these before they die. But I'm always appreciate T doing that because I know a lot of people are looking for that. We got snow on the ground. And my daddy always says when it stayed around for 3 days, it was waiting for the
Waiting for
next one.
another.
I heard that myself all my
So
life.
I peeped at the weather report this morning and was glad to see those 60s next week.
Oh,
but,
yeah. It's going to be a beautiful week
It's going
next
to be a
week.
beautiful week. So maybe we've got it on the other side of it now. So we've talked about, do you remember going to Earl's Restaurant down on Wildwood?
Yes.
Earl
It
Baden.
was a sandwich shop.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the kids after ball games, and
Mm-hmm.
if they had enough money to date when there wasn't a ball game, they'd go in there and park. It was kind of like a lawn sandwich shop. Those were the two places.
Got
Earl's
another
and
call,
Lon's.
folks. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town.
Yeah, this is Cecil. Used to work for Hoskins Drugstore.
Cecil, turn down your radio just a little bit.
All right, how's that?
Okay. I could just hear it echo in the background. Well, go ahead, Cecil.
Yeah, going to ask him about that South Cleveland swimming pool. I used to go there when I was a kid, and we'd watch this guy. He'd swim underwater all the way from the small kiddie pool all the way to the deepest part wall underwater.
Who do you think it was?
I don't remember his name, but everybody walked that little sidewalk around the pool there to watch him.
Well, I know Terry McGuire was down there, and I think, like I say, every youngster in that neighborhood, I think, folded towels or did something down there too.
One of the managers of that pool was Warren Brewster.
Warren Brewster.
Well, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Well, I remember this guy used to dive off at the top of the building over the concession stand.
A lot of daredevils back in those days.
Yeah, he was a curly-headed guy, a little short guy, and he worked for the power company, something about maybe Cleveland Utilities or something later on, or whatever. But he's curly-headed, little short guy, and he used to come a boogity across that building up there and dive off into the pool.
Lord have mercy.
And I remember he used to have these safety pins with a number on it. That's when you paid $25, I think, to get in. Then you took and pinned that on your swimming trunks. You know, and they could tell whether you paid or not, I guess, for that thing.
And also, that was the number of your basket you could put your clothes in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember you had a little basket to put your clothes in. And still, we had a good time at that place, but you get thinking about all people go there just, probably us too, just as nasty as everything. That chlorine, it had to kill a lot of germs or you'd been dead, I guess. But
y'all were just immune to it. Cecil, what did you do at Hoskins?
Me and old Danny Waters, we used to pedal them bicycle and deliver drugs around town, and we'd make up hot slaw and just different things like that, clean it up, mop the floors. I remember Johnson used to be I think he was...
Bob Johnson.
Yeah, he was Gerald's, something kin to Gerald. I don't know whether he was his brother-in-law or something. But, yeah, he was kin to Gerald somehow or another through marriage or something. Yeah, but that was a good old time. And that Dr. Pettit, he used to be our family doctor back then. I think he was kind of a veterinarian.
Osteopath, I believe.
On the side, 'cause I went to him one time and I had this bull cut off of my rear end, and he lanced that bull, and I had a '65 Mustang convertible. Me and my wife just got married not long, and he lanced that thing. I drove over here when Lonis was over here on 64 Highway and was getting gas, and she said, "Don't turn around." Said, "The whole back of your britch is just bloody as ever." And I went back up there, and he said, "Well, we don't charge nothing for accidents." And he put a big old patch on it and stuff, but that was embarrassing as all get out. My mama said when she was having either my brother or sister, that he got up in the bed with her and put his knee in her belly and pushing on it. I mean, he's just I said, man, I don't know about this.
He's yep, just got done what needed to be
I
done.
think he might have been a veterinarian the way you're talking there.
Yeah, he just acted like a veterinarian. One time he was leaning on my back. He said, I got to open this window. He said, it's hot in here. And then he asked me, he said, what'd you come up here for now? I said, my back. He said, I'm sorry. He said, I wouldn't have done that. I don't know about that. But
Thanks, Cecil.
Okay. We'll
Bye-bye, dear.
Bye-bye.
Call back sometime. Bye-bye.
Sounds like Dr. Pettit was a piece of work.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, it was just a different time.
It was a different time.
It was a different time, and people, and he took care of a lot of people.
You should. My family doctor
made house calls.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, my favorite doctor was our family doctor was Jack Free. Remember Jack?
I went to Jack Free down on Central Avenue. His little office is still down there. Which reminds me, do you remember when the Elks Lodge was built? What was on that lot before then? Big old house.
Yes.
The Harrell House.
Harrell House.
Was it? What did it? I mean, was it just
It
one
was.
of those?
It was an old brick, pretty house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they bought that lot and tore it down, built a. Elks Club was over on Inman Street, as I remember it, in a 2-story house.
Mm-hmm.
Got another call. Let's see who it is. Thanks for calling Old Town Cleveland. Who's calling?
Hey, it's Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Mr. Cartwright.
Yes, sir.
You said you run the chalet for a while up there?
I did for a while.
Do you remember all them rail buggies you had problems with going up and down that hill behind it?
Yes.
Oh, mine was the one with airplane lights on it.
I think you're saying he was one of your problems, Eddie.
May have been.
The reason you didn't catch us was we kept a lookout on top of the hill up there where the old bar used to be.
Yeah.
And we could see them come up 25th Street with their blue lights, and they let us know. Old John England even had his Blue Street Jeep up there a time or two.
All right.
Yeah.
Good old days, really.
But we had all kind of people. They'd stand out there on the balcony of the night and watch us, and they'd clap, and going up and down it wasn't the thrill anymore. We started going out it sideways.
Oh my goodness,
that's the problem. Well, thanks, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
We had a good time.
All righty, Mr. I'm glad you survived your childhood. Bye-bye.
Ask John about it next time.
I will. Thanks. Bye-bye. I love our callers.
I
They
do
just
too.
Crack me up. So who built the chalet? Colonel Corn?
Jimmy Corn. There was Colonel Corn, and then and his son was Jimmy Corn.
Okay.
And then his son is Jim Corn the third.
Yes.
And he's the only one of the three still alive.
Mm-hmm.
He's in his 50s, I would guess.
Which one of the Corns was the one so interested in archaeology, Indian folklore?
Colonel Corn.
Colonel Corn.
He's the one that bought the farm where Red Clay is and held it.
He's the one that instilled my love of history.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He really
great
was.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about when the Cherokee Hotel, you as a young man.
In its heyday.
In its heyday.
Oh,
See,
man.
by the time I remembered it, it's not a place that was being used very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Well, in my day, it was the place.
Mm-hmm.
If you were
Tallest building in Cleveland, too.
Oh
isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
It the mezzanine at the Cherokee is where you had your wedding receptions and your big time parties. And now I'm not into the big time parties, but all the football, basketball banquets at Bradley was held at the Cherokee.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's wedding reception was on the mezzanine.
Pictures from there are gorgeous.
Yeah, we've got good pictures of it, and it was the place to be. And the coffee shop, the Cherokee Coffee Shop, the little restaurant, was a very nice little restaurant, and of course it got most of the traffic because the Cherokee Hotel, the Highway 11 came by one side and 64 the other, and it was kind of the crossroads.
Right. Right.
And It was the end place at the time.
Now,
so
during the movie Wild River, Cliff Montgomery stayed.
they stayed there.
They stayed there.
And and it kind of hurts me to hear people call the theater the Martin Theater. It really does. It wasn't the Martin Theater. It was the Princess.
Princess,
Theater.
yeah, I remember it as Princess.
Princess and the Bohemia.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin owned it, and I think just before its death, they changed it to the Martin Theater.
Now, the building has been used for something else now, but I'm so glad that it was saved.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm kind of sorry that we didn't keep it as a theater.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Well, tell me this. What's the first movie you remember seeing, or a more memorable movie?
Key Largo.
Key Largo.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Key Largo. And I wasn't in Cleveland then. I was raised at the North Cleveland Church of God.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't go to the movies. That's a no-no.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'd slip off on Saturday morning, and I'd come downtown Cleveland with a glass gallon jug under my arm to get buttermilk for my mother at the creamery down below the city hall.
And how old were you?
I don't know, 10 or 12 years old.
See, you can't send kids to do important stuff like that now.
No.
They might do something like slip off and go to a movie.
That's right. What I would do, she'd give me a quarter
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
And I'd pay, she'd give me money to pay for the buttermilk. Mr. Larson owned it. And I'd come by the bandstand, and if they were handling snakes, I'd stop and watch a little of that. And then I'd go to either the Bohemia or the Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go home and get a whipping.
That was the agenda for the day.
That's my Saturday.
And repeat next Saturday.
Right. But I remember,
it must have been worth the whipping, Eddie.
Well, it was. and I remember we had relatives in Gainesville, Florida, and we'd go down there and visit quite often. And when I was a youngster, and I guess when my mama got me off down there in Florida, she let me go to the movie.
When the neighbors couldn't see.
I guess. And so I went to the movie down there, and I remember well, Key Largo was playing, and it was a good movie. And
one of my favorite childhood memories of all time was the matinees on Saturday at the Princess. You could see Tarzan. You could see the Western sequels and all that, and you could go in the morning and stay there all day.
Yeah, see,
long.
you not only saw maybe a detective movie, a Western movie, but you saw the news.
Yes, you did.
And then you saw the serial.
Yeah.
And then you saw the comedy. And by the time you went through, and you go in any time, and you just stayed till it come back around.
Yeah,
to that.
exactly.
You didn't go at 7 o'clock just to see the 7 o'clock movie.
I love it.
You went in there, and it just played on around. It was a good time to grow up.
You probably got the whipping because you probably forgot the buttermilk.
No.
No,
I had that buttermilk because I knew if I didn't have that buttermilk, I wouldn't get to come back the next week.
That's right. Well, snake handling and movies, what more can you ask for?
Growing up in Cleveland, it was great.
That'd fill your day, wouldn't it?
Looking back, sure enough, the late 40s, especially starting right after World War II, through high school, it was a wonderful time at a wonderful place.
You bet. We got a caller. I bet they want to talk about this. Thank you for calling Old Town Cleveland, Mr. Doug.
Yeah, now you bring back some old memories.
I'm telling
Joe.
you.
Joe used to work down at was it the Princess when you were there, Joe, or the Martin?
It was the Princess, and then it went to the Martin. But bringing back some old memories. Now, I stopped in up there one day at the, what is that now up there?
The United Way building.
Yeah, United Way, and see if I could go back in there and look and see what's all left. And they said there wasn't nothing left in there.
No, there's not much left in there. I've been in there. It's kind of odd to you now to go in there.
Is the floor still slanted, or have they built the floor
think so.
flat?
I think the floor might be concrete now, and it's.
Well, it was
the room I was in. It was level, but it messed with my brain to think that it used to be the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame that we destroyed that theater.
Because it would be nice to have it like the Tivoli.
Yes.
Well, maybe sometime it will happen.
Yeah, but a few of us still live and it worked up there.
Well, when you worked there, who managed it?
Kevin Harvey.
Okay. Well, see, I go back farther than Calvin. Mr. McGee managed it when I was a kid, and his wife, excuse me, taught at Bradley High School. She was an English teacher.
Then after Calvin left and went to the village dinner,
Yes.
JCA Day was the manager up there then.
Mm-hmm.
But you talk about that cab company down there. Now, them cabs did move.
Yeah, they had deliveries to make. They wasn't picking up, they was taking out.
Yeah, because I've got many of the high pints off of them.
I'm not going to ask you how old you were when you got those. Well, thanks a lot, Joe.
All right.
Bye-bye. Last question of the day, Eddie. Do you remember the mini golf place downtown in the 1950s?
The mini golf place. Well, there was a miniature golf place across from, where Fike Funeral Home is now.
Okay.
Bill Talley worked there, and I think Art Fitzgerald owned it.
Mm-hmm.
Then the 3-Par on Keith Street. And then there was a mini golf place at the corner of Broad Street and maybe Central Avenue, right in that area.
Okay, I think maybe that's the one they're talking about.
Yeah, I sure do. And there was not only was there a little mini golf course there, but a very good little hamburger joint there.
I think I've heard that too.
And they sold, I remember they sold really good snowballs. I could walk from Arnold School up there on the way back home, and if I had any money left, I could get a nickel snowball.
Mm-hmm. Well, Eddie, this 2 hours has just whizzed by this morning.
It has.
And I appreciate you always being on the other end of the line when I call and ask for you to come in and help me talk about where things used to be. And
I'm about to run out of information.
No, I don't. I doubt that. Very seriously.
After Aunt Hazel last week, I want to remind everybody, if you have an Aunt Hazel in your family and you can convince them to come on, you need to call me right after the show here at the studio and let me talk to you about it.
And understand that these shows are recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got like an Aunt Hazel, you're building an archive. You're
and
building
I know
something.
that the last time Eddie was on our show may be the biggest show we've had on YouTube. I know the last time I looked, it was 185 views or something.
Wow.
And that's been a while ago. So I think a lot of people went back and listened to it again, and we always appreciate you. Next week, I haven't confirmed yet what we're going to have on the show, but then the following week will be David Carroll. And so, as always, we appreciate...
Which David is that?
David Carroll from the TV station in Chattanooga.
Okay, Channel 3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Eddie, for being with us. And
my pleasure.
Thank you, Doug, for filling in for Ron today.
It's been fun.
See you guys.